I had somebody on Twitter earlier ask when I was going to do the next Google Hangout. I didn't have an answer. Well, they're random. I don't really schedule them. So I was thinking, well, what the hell? Let's all get together and just talk about whatever's on your mind. If there's a comment or question, obviously the Google Hangout room has a limited number of people. What is it? 10, 12 people at a time can come in and participate with their webcams. If you don't have a comment or question, I would encourage you to watch and listen on just the main YouTube site. Okay. So, if you're watching, don't clog up the Hangout. But if you want to chime in, we'll just see what sticks and talk for a little while. My voice is a little raspy. I've been in the studio for a good portion of the day doing some recordings. This sounds funny to some people, but I'm all right. I do a ghost story show every year. And what many people don't realize is just how much time and energy and even money, production, music, and I hire out contract voices and whatnot. How much in terms of resources it takes to do that. And after how many years? 4, 5, 6 years. I have come to the conclusion that it may be a great idea to put together an audible book of ghost stories for I mean, the podcast audience is going to have heard a lot of it. There'll be a lot of new material, but I think about most of the audible ghost stories I've heard, they're just crap. I mean, they're just, either they're lazy, it's somebody who's overacting, and at the end, and all they found was an iron hook kind of thing. And, or it's just not scary, or it's not atmospheric, or they don't have a sense of timing and all that stuff. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool to take all of the efforts I've done from some of the best stories over the years past, and then write a bunch of new material, brand new stuff nobody's heard, and produce it all into something that could release late September and be there for the Audible audience, a broad audience, hopefully a wide audience every October. And so I've been working on that. And so I've been doing a lot of voiceovers and tests and working on music and trying other stuff, all the legwork being done now. And so my voice is kind of raspy, and hopefully it'll stick with me here for the next, I don't know how long. It's interesting for some people. They're like, why in the world would an atheist do ghost stories? And just stupid. Why in the world would an atheist go see Harry Potter? Because it is fun to play in the playground of the imagination sometimes. And I love a good ghost story. I love a good horror game. I got involved recently on Twitch. Anybody watch the Twitch feeds? I get probably 70% of people who've commented anyway say, yeah, it's great, great, good for you. And then, the other 30% say, that's not why I subscribe to this channel. And they leave in a huff, They're like, if it's not why you joined, don't watch the feed. But I've been gaming a little bit poorly, clumsily, but I've been gaming just as a distraction. And so I've been doing some horror games, specifically one called Outlast, which has been really good. Another one called Layers of Fear. We're going to crank up Alien Isolation. Someone said The Last of Us was quite good. And I won't post very many of those on the Thinking Atheist YouTube channel, but most of them will be at the Twitch channel. And so you can find, if you want, on Twitch. It's Seth Andrews TTA. I just use it because most people know me as the host of the Thinking Atheist. So Seth Andrews TTA. You'll see my illustrated face that was drawn by artist and friend Vince DePorter, who did the artwork for Sacred Cows for me, the book I written a couple of years ago. So I hope life is good for you guys. I can see the chat room, and I see some folks in the room. Raise your hand if anybody here would like to participate in some way. I've got Demi. Demi, did you want to say or contribute something for the show? Were you just here to watch?
I have one question.
Yeah.
First, greetings from Poland to anyone listening. And second, I would like to hear your thoughts about people adding translation subtitles to their videos.
I'm sorry. Translations of what videos?
Your videos on YouTube, because there is a possibility. It is possible for people to add subtitles for
Yeah.
videos in another language, I tried to add one to sorry,
No, you're doing great.
stress.
So I had someone send me a message
It was
last
probably
week.
me.
Was that you who had asked
Yeah.
about viewer submitted captions?
Yes, yes.
And I'll admit, I don't know much about user submitted captions. You can set that up so that viewers can go
Yes,
in and add their own.
I've never added any video to YouTube, but uh, I saw option to add subtitles, but your videos apparently have the options turned off.
You know, the uh, auto captions that YouTube, now it may have improved, but you know, it
Yeah,
used to be just
but it is
horrible,
still crap,
horrible.
and if it's translated, it's unbearable and impossible to read.
What I mean, that all the words are wrong, the grammar's wrong, the sentence structure is wrong in the translation.
Not even that. It's complete nonsense.
Okay,
Mm, Not much in common with what people are talking. Just
that's true
just
in the English captions. And whenever I produce a scripted video, I try to upload the caption file so at least it's in English. But if there is a you know, if there's an option for people to be able to submit captions and those captions are accurate in other languages, hell, I'm all for that. Can somebody help me do some research on that? Somebody said there's translating software. Now, I don't have a whole lot of bandwidth to deal with it, but let me, you know,
yeah,
I'm not trying to pass you off, but let me look into it and see if there's a setting that I
okay.
can set where the listeners can all pitch in.
It's probably a fan made thing that so you wouldn't have to do pretty much
What
nothing.
happens if they're all they just screw with me? Like what happens if they,
Well,
you know, they put in something totally wrong that says, you know, Allahu
I guess
Akbar and all that.
community will correct it. Community will correct it in that country. Uh, well,
All
you
right.
can always try.
All right.
Nothing to
Well,
lose, I think.
you know, I think as much as we can get these conversations out, I would love to see translations, captions, those types of things made possible. So, you know, I've got two people who work with me whenever they can, Susie and Rhonda. I may ping them and see if they can do some homework on YouTube. And I'll also throw it out for the YouTube audience as well. Let's see if there's a way where the users can submit translations in the languages of their native countries and cultures and see if we can get the word out. Okay.
Okay. I I was hoping I could add subtitles to that talk with naturalist doctor.
Oh, the natural path.
So my sister is studying medicine, and that would be kind of way to introduce you to her.
Yeah,
I,
the podcasts are a little harder because they're these informal conversations. So I don't even have transcript files for those in English. Um, but there may be, certainly there's a resource. Jesus, if my phone can do speech to text, then I'm guessing there's a solid speech to text option for.
well, if people can understand it, there's no problem for them to subtitle it.
So was it your sister? You say is into naturopathic and all that stuff?
She is medicine. She is strongly anti-vaccination.
Oh,
Why? Oh.
I
She is against the move for anti-vaccination.
that would be a good video for her to be able to watch, and for us to get translated. I buy that.
I do a lot of discussions with all my family about stuff, and they is got real and such, and yeah, most of the time I'm laughed at. Not that they are some quite, not that they are very intolerant, but yeah, it's like blah 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 blah. Go away.
Yeah.
With that, she would add some credibility.
All right, my friend. Well, you know, let me do some homework. Let me try to do some legwork. You know, right now I feel like I'm spinning all these plates in the air. trying to juggle the production schedule and everything else. But that's something I think that should be made a priority. That's a good idea. Let me run the traps on it. Okay, buddy?
Okay, great.
Appreciate
Thanks.
you. Take care of yourself.
Bye.
I had a super chat from Noah. Noah said he would like to be on the show. And by the way, thanks for the support in the super chat. People are able to support the work through the chat room, which is kind of a cool feature that YouTube has provided. So Noah, if I switch over to you, are you ready to rock and roll? Do you have something you want to say on the show? I'll give you a few seconds, Noah. And how about try this? There you go. Hi, Noah. What's going on?
Hi. How's it going?
I'm very well. What's up?
Can you see me?
I sure can.
Okay. You know, I consider myself a Christian, but I'm having some doubts as far as my faith being concerned, and I'm just I'm kind of scared. If I go to the other side, being secular, that there will be eternal separation for eternity. And just a very scary thought.
Yeah, it's funny. You and I aren't the only ones on this show with a biblical name, are we? I think I saw Michael and a few other people. Seth, Noah, Michael. I was steeped in religion growing up as well. I mean, you are a religious person, or are you starting to drift out of your faith?
Starting to drift away. I wouldn't label myself a firm atheist or yet, but I just have, I have thoughts, I have thoughts that raise doubt. I think some of the things that raise doubt is the undeniable evidence of our origins, of evolution. I mean, there just seems to be no evidence for Genesis whatsoever. Sam Harris, his thoughts on free will, that we really don't have free will. Why would God knit us in our mother's womb, giving us thought processes which we aren't fully responsible for, therefore damning us for eternity for choices we don't truly make? I mean, it doesn't really seem to make sense to me.
You sound like somebody a little further along in the journey than just someone who's navigating his doubts. And how long has this been going on?
Probably 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I can only take what you say at face value, that you are a believer who's navigating. But I mean, you're already talking about the nuts and bolts of free will and determinism, all this type of stuff. With Sam Harris, it doesn't sound like somebody who just stuck their toe in the ocean. It sounds like somebody who's sort of.
It's because I've. As a Christian, I also used to study apologetics too. So, I used to go on Matt Slick's show. I used to call on his show, from Carm, right? I'd watched Dinesh D'Souza, William Lane Craig. I'd see the other side too. So, I kind of have a familiarity as far as the other side is concerned too.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, if what you say is true, then I would encourage you the way I encourage everybody else. It's to most of the reasonings that I hear for people who they come to a point of deism. They're Christians, they're fundamentalists, then they're moderates, then they're Christians in name only, then they're spiritual but not religious, and then they're sort of this weird deist. I think there's something out there. And what keeps a lot of people from going over the edge is a fear of punishment or hell, damnation if they get it wrong. This is a control mechanism that's been set up by religious institutions to keep people from asking hard questions, right? And what got me over it was hell studies, just finding out where hell teachings came from and the different versions of hell and fiction and mythology, and how the church used the fear of hell to try to keep people from questioning and doubting. And the more I saw the man-made origins of hell, the easier it was to get past any idea of damnation in the afterlife. And I was able to embrace my curiosity without fear. And that's what I would hope for everybody. Okay.
Right. I mean, I kind of look at, Arminianism and Calvinism. Arminianism is, easy to debunk with, our thought processes are inherently genetic, so we're not really fully accountable for the actions we commit. And therefore, God created us. How can it truly be our fault? And I look at Calvinism, I'm like, it's kind of strange. I mean, God seems to be electing a lot more people in the Western hemisphere than he does in the Eastern hemisphere. Or could it be because Christianity just happens to be the dominant religion in the Western hemisphere and he's not really electing anybody at all?
That was like Dawkins, who said, you asked two questions, right? Where were you born? What was the religion of your parents? And,
right.
That usually explains it.
Right. And if Hinduism is 4,500 years old, then why didn't the flood wipe it out? So
again, you don't sound like somebody who's 2 weeks in. You sound a lot further along. But, ultimately, I just hope your journey's taken on your terms. I hope your life is lived on your terms. And, I think any God worth worshiping, if he, she, or it existed, would want us to be curious and kick the tires and try to ask and find out. So, hey, man, keep asking questions. And, a great rule of thumb is if somebody says you're not allowed to ask about that, make that the next question you ask. If somebody says this person or idea can't be challenged, make that the next thing you challenge. And I wish you best in your journey. Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Did I have an Amy or did I lose you, Amy? Forgive me. There was someone else too on the chat room that said something that I wanted to address. They suggested a book I have not read. It is called Inventing Hell by John M. Sweeney. Haven't read the book, can't endorse the book, but it's a resource that was presented by one of our listeners. Thanks to Gabby for presenting that. There's Amy. Let me pull you up here on the switchboard. Thank you. Amy, do I have you? Hello. I see you are muted, but I don't have you muted.
Can you hear me?
There you go. What's going on, Amy?
Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for everything you do, Seth. I really, really appreciate you and your show.
Thank you.
Just had to add that real quick. So I'm someone who grew up as a preacher's kid. In a good home. We weren't oppressed or anything like that. And I never quite bought into the whole religion thing. I was always a little bit, for most of my life, like, this really doesn't make much sense, but, it's all I've ever been told, so I must believe it. And I think I'm in a state of, I'm kind of in a area on my journey of kind of post-traumatic stress. Like, I feel like I have wasted away a lot of my life being bogged down by religion. And what I mean by that is the way that I was raised was that, you just had to be a certain way. You had to be perfect, and being gay was wrong, and, all of these things. And I was really closed-minded and really prejudiced and really homophobic. I'm really scared to say that now. And I'm really ashamed of it. And I never really thought that these things were right, but I thought I would go to hell. And so right now I'm kind of, trying to navigate through some of this resentment that I have as being kind of a meek little mouse and being afraid to do anything and get out and do anything because I was so scared that I was, committing sins and sending myself to hell, and kind of trying to get out of that, and, kind of trying to come to terms with growing up in that way right now.
So, are you mad at yourself because you feel like you should have escaped sooner? Are you mad at mom and dad, or?
I would say I'm mostly mad at myself that I kind of allowed myself to be stuck in this box for so long. And I am a little bit resentful of my parents too, even though they were really good parents. I feel like I was really held back by being raised to be so religious, and there were a lot of more things I could have done when I was younger that I didn't do because of the fear of God, so to speak, being put into me for so many years.
No, I get it. I understand. Hang on. I'm trying to figure out this. I don't use Google Hangout very often. Forgive me. I was kind of pissed at all the time I'd wasted. I was, angry that I'd been sort of cocooned off from all of these amazing ideas, right?
Exactly.
And I think if only I had learned the basics of evolution when I was a kid. Um,
Exactly.
all right, somebody's blowing into a mic here. Hang on. If only I had been a little further along, maybe I could have done more, been more.
Hmm.
I wasn't pissed off at mom and dad because they sincerely believed in what they were doing, and they really felt like it was the right thing to do. I mean, they are operating from a position of goodness. When I got pissed off is when I became an atheist and announced it, and mom and dad felt that they could name and shame and guilt trip and cross boundaries and just infuse all sorts of religiously motivated ugliness into my life.
Right.
That's when I started to get pissed off. Do mom and dad know for you at this measure?
Absolutely not. I will, my dad's a pastor, and he's fairly prominent in the town that he's in. He's a small town, but he's fairly prominent there. And at this point, I just feel like, you know what? I can go to church for an hour when I'm home. It's not that bad. I'll just suck it up and not cause them any grief. That's kind of where I am with it.
Well,
Um,
don't let me pry into your life. You determine the boundary, but do you live at home or do you live next to them? What's the relationship?
yeah, no, I mean, we have a really good relationship, actually. I don't live at home, but I do visit them fairly often because they live about an hour and a half away. And so when I do go home, I just go to church. I entertain myself though during the hymns by replacing words um in the hymns in my head. So like for example, this is like something I would do. So like when it's like Jesus is Lord, I think like Jesus is Borg or something like that. It's so freaking boring. I have to do something. And then I just stay on my phone and pretend I'm looking at my Bible. But no, I don't tell them because it's like, what's the point?
Is it
You
like
know?
you're playing The Sims? You're walking around watching these communities develop and build and grow
Yeah.
and do what they do, and it's almost a forensic experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually
I
love
need to
The
be.
Sims. It's funny that you brought that up. I'm like a Sims fanatic. But yeah, it is kind of like that. I just kind of do it just to do it. I mean, they were good parents. I don't want to say what I'm really kind of resentful for them is to make me about more than anything, because they did come from a good place, but they taught me things like, you know, gay people are going to hell, and you know, shit like that, that I'm not okay with stuff like that,
All right, well, let me back up for just a second. And I'm not
Yeah.
Yoda, all right? I'm just a guy who's been through the journey. I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, do you feel like that if somebody was to tell your mother and father that they did not have the right to be themselves,
Uh-huh.
do you think they would go for that? Do you think they would shut up and change their mind and sit on their hands? If someone said, "You're embarrassing us, you
Mhm.
make me uncomfortable," would they not be who they are?
No, they would still be who they are.
Okay. So, but you feel like you're in a position where you're having to do all the bending. You're the one who's having to make the concessions. You're having to be quiet, play along, keep everybody else from going ballistic. And
Yeah,
so
I would
you've
say that.
you've
Mhm.
muted your own voice
Mhm.
and been, you're playing your own ideas and opinions and thoughts and convictions and values pretty close to the chest because you are not, you don't feel like you've been allowed the same opportunity or latitude. Is that close?
That's really close. There's absolutely, I mean, I've kind of tried to open up little tiny questions to my dad before, and it's just steamrolled. I mean, I can't even make the suggestion. Not enough so he knows that I'm having doubts, but just like a little nugget, and it's just no. That's it. One of the things he says in church is to his congregation is, God said it. God said it. I believe it. That settles it. Like that's it. Like there's no logic. There's no argument. There's nothing.
Yeah.
It
Well, I
wouldn't
mean, it
matter what I
sounds
said.
it's a rigged game
Yeah.
because you know th- what I often hear is this is not how we raised you, which is something you might hear, or
Yeah.
we failed as a parent. That's a shame-based thing where they want to guilt trip you into towing the line. Some people hold their kids financially hostage. As long as you think or feel this way, we're not going to be there for you in a financial time of need. I mean, there's a myriad of ways that people come at it.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like they're going to say, well, we disagree, but hey, it'd be great to see you next week. It's going to be a lot more hardcore than that, right?
Yeah, it would be, it wouldn't be to the point of we don't want to talk to you, we're disowning you, but it would not be friendly. Let's put it that way.
All right. Well, at some point, my hope for you is, and only you can determine when the time is with the cost benefit, but everybody else around you gets to be who they are.
Yeah.
They are living truthful lives as best they know. They are, they're not watering down what they think. They're not sitting on their hands. They're not zipping their mouth. And yet here you are, the one person who is apparently, you feel like that I'm in a bubble here. I can't be me in a way that people really see me.
Yeah.
And it would be my hope that at some point you're able to come to that moment in your life when you are, you're like, I'm not here to keep everybody else comfortable.
Yeah.
And love is not necessarily based in agreement. And mom and dad should be able to love and accept me because I am their child. And if they won't or can't, that's on them. Right. And I never want to see a family divide, but I hate to see you live your life on mute, making all the concessions while everybody else gets to shout it from the mountaintops,
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
But I often say we're playing chess, not checkers. Some people are like, you're a coward if you don't scream it. You're an atheist to everybody. And I'm like, yeah, sometimes you need to be strategic. You need to maneuver your way through to a point where you are comfortable. I hope that time comes for you. Yeah. But we have one life. You're not here to keep everybody else comfortable. And that includes mom and dad. I would like to think that, your life belongs to you and you should be able to live it on your terms and say what you think and be who you are and be accepted on those terms. Right. And I hope that day comes for you, Amy. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Seth. I appreciate it. No, that's definitely something that I will think about and give a lot more thought. What you're saying makes a lot of sense.
All right. Well, for what it's worth, just friend to friend. Okay.
Thank you, Seth. I appreciate it.
You bet. That's tough. I never want to see a family divided, right? And I don't want to project because I've been going through it with my own family as well. And I've just come to a point where boundaries are everything. Agree, disagree. You don't get to cross boundaries. And so I've taken a pretty hard line, but I just think, if we only have one life, we only get one shot at the title. There's no evidence of an afterlife, heaven, hell, nirvana, whatever. Wouldn't it be a crime if we spent every day just trying to make everybody else comfortable, even if it means not being real in our own lives, not being able to say what we think and ask questions and be curious and kick the tires and stir the pot and go and make every day a sort of a forensic exploration of the human existence, to sit around and just be so afraid. And this is one of religion's control mechanisms. It is a backlash effect that many people have been conditioned to fear, and it keeps them quiet. In many ways, it's very effective. And I've seen parents pull college funding from kids who said they were atheists. I mean, that's financial blackmail is what that is. Not just emotional and familial, but financial blackmail. I mean, imagine what they just did. We're going to limit your future and what you may become because you disagree, unless you change your mind and put all this atheist nonsense behind you. That's on mom and dad. That's their fault. It's their problem. And, I came to a point, it took me decades, but I came to a point when I was thinking, why am I worried about keeping everybody else comfortable all the time? They're not doing that. They're loud and proud. They're screaming it at the dinner table and, they're out being activists in their own life, whether it's church or mission trips or whatever. Why am I not being true to me? And I just decided, let's go for it. And there were consequences. It's not like I live in Pakistan, it's not like Saudi Arabia, but I have lost relationships and I have a strained relationship with my own members of my own family here. So, I mean, it's a cost benefit. Only Amy can make the decision. It's hard to give advice, not being like a trained expert, but I do a lot of conversations with ex-believers and people in those situations. And so I just sort of just sort of toss out, what I think from my perspective. Let's see. I've got Joey. Joey, you are on the air, my friend. What's going on?
Hey, how's it going, Seth? I am. Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I'm driving. So first off, thanks for what you do. I am a big fan. First of all,
this cannot be safe. Joey. This cannot be safe.
So I've been an atheist for about 6 months now, and it's been an interesting process. My parents are kind of not super religious, but they're religious in the sense that they have this never-ending belief, whereas they don't necessarily go to church every week, but they always will pray. They always will tell me things like, "Hey Joey, like, why don't you come to church?" I don't know, just the typical stuff. Anyways, the point of something I love to ask you is how can I tell them, like, I have no, and I have told them, by the way, they know I'm atheist, but how can I essentially, for lack of a better word, get it through their head that, I really don't have any intention of following their beliefs, because at this point, I definitely consider myself a humanist, and it gets to a point where it like kind of bothers me at my core, and I'm no longer okay with like religious, indoctrination, and it, like I said, it's kind of really bothering me. Yeah.
Well, let me, if I can, I'm going to drive. All right, put your hands on the wheel. Drive. I'll answer your question here on the in the room. Okay, I want to make sure you're safe. I've got well, she's not a teenager anymore, but whenever she'd get in the car with her cell phone, I just felt part of me died inside. Werner Herzog did a documentary about people who had been in wrecks when they were texting, on their phones. It was just, ultimately, it's situational how you tell your parents that there's no way, but I can't imagine they're going to accept it. If they're people of true conviction, they're going to give you the full court press, likely. And if they're like many other families, including my own, it'll be a variety of tactics. One week it'll be, I failed as a parent. And the next week it'll be science proves the Bible. And if it's the next week, it'll be, here's a book, read this book, or here's a link or something else. They'll probably try everything in the book. And then it again becomes a question of boundaries. You've earned the right to live your own life. Some people like to present it in letter form because it's a pretty heavy thing to do in person, and they're not comfortable, so they'll write it in a letter. I wrote a letter to my family because instead of hearing it through the grapevine, I thought, well, let me just, let's go straight to the horse's mouth. So I sat down and hammered out a long letter and sent it to like 30 people so that they had a record, so that they heard it from the source directly. Some people start with questions, instead of going in and saying, this is a bunch of crap and I'll never come back, to walk in and use the Socratic method to get them thinking. But at the very beginning, I would not marry yourself to the idea that you're going to convince them with logic. I think your journey has to be about boundaries. It has to be about, look, this is my life. And I've got pretty good reasons to doubt. You must know that I'm a good person and I'm seeking truth and hoping to be and act out good in my own life. And, I ask that you embrace that in me as I live my own life on my terms. So, but if you try, if at any reason, I know this wasn't the question, you have this pipe dream of trying to deconvert your parents like Dan Barker did to his parents, it can happen. But usually that way madness lies. You will almost never, you're going to have to be about you. And then perhaps they'll come to a point in their life when they see a loud, proud, good, secular life, and they'll come to you and you can have those discussions. But I mean, I can't tell you how to approach them. I just know that there are multiple ways, whether it's in person, whether it's in writing, whether it's an email, whether it's, just beginning with soft questions and heading toward the harder declarations. So for what it's worth.
Yeah, that's kind of I guess kind of where the problem lies, because you've heard this a million times. The moment the issue's brought up, it's kind of their initial reaction is just to want to kick it under the rug, kind of just forget about it, pretend like it never happened, pretend like, oh, my son's this good Christian.
Well, look, if they want to be in denial, as long as they're not, showering you with negativity, if they want to deal by denial, whatever, and go over and enjoy their company and then go on and be whatever you want to be the rest of your life.
Yeah. That's honestly, I just need to understand that for myself. I think at the end of the day, I just need to realize that it's not that big of a deal. If the relationship is kind of tampered with, I guess, it's kind of just part of the process. It's my own decision. I guess these are the consequences, not necessarily consequences, but effects of my own decision. So
yeah. I think Matt Dillahunty, right? He was going back and forth with his own mother, and now his mom just is like, she just come to that point of kind of denial, like, well, I know one day you'll come to Jesus, and that's all they've said, and they just go hang, and it's totally, no one talks about it. And I'm like, you know what? If that's what she needs to do, go ahead, knock yourself out.
I'd be okay with that. Yeah.
Well, my friend, I know it's not easy, but at the end of the day, ultimately, I think if you can maintain a relationship with them, if she wants to go and have this belief that, of whatever, and as long as she's not ramming it down your throat, let her.
Yeah. It's I know, like, our relationship will be fine. It's not that our relationship's going to end. It just feels like, it's not as close as it could be. And it would be nice if that was the case, but if it's not, it's fine. I have plenty of friends. No big deal.
I hope I hope the consequences for you are not, the loss of a relationship with mom and dad.
No. Yeah.
But I'll tell you, we as kids, we allow ourselves to be controlled in this specific way by parents who say, we raised you to think like this, be like this, act like this, vote like this, worship like this. And if you don't, you failed or we failed. And I think that's a trap. And, as long as we can walk and talk ourselves back that outside of that trap and around that trap, I think that's a step in the right direction. Drive safe out there. Okay, my friend?
Yeah. Take care.
All right. See you, brother.
See ya.
A lot of family stuff on the show today. That's interesting. I mean, I don't know. What advice would you give? What would you do if, you're just worried about a mother and a father? Would you go in full bore and would you try to convert them? Let's see. I've got, I'm looking for Ollie on the switchboard. Where are you? There you are. Ollie, you got me or I think I have you on Google Hangout. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
What's going on?
Oh, I just decided to come on and talk. I've been listening to your podcasts and to most of your YouTube stuff since like 5th grade. So I've been around a while.
How many years is that?
5 years.
Okay, cool.
14. And I just wanted to talk about actually quick backstory. I started being homeschooled about 3 months ago. I'm enjoying it. I was in the public system before that. And I've been an atheist my entire life. My family's non-religious. We're nice and calm. It's quite nice. But what I would like to talk about is the immense religiousness and almost indoctrinating language and just everything in the public school system, as well as the Pledge of Allegiance, because that is under God. Everyone has their own belief towards that. But what did you do while you were in school? I expected you stand for the pledge.
Well, I was in public school till 4th grade, and then it was private Christian schools, and we stood for the pledge to the American flag, the Christian flag, and the Bible. I can recite those pledges even now. I was homeschooled for 4 months in the end of my 4th grade year. When you say you're homeschooled now, secular homeschool?
Yeah. My dad is an engineer. My mom's a nurse. They mostly just give me books, and I just read an ungodly amount. No pun intended.
Well, I've heard some good things about secular homeschooling. I mean, honestly, a lot of the reasons that homeschools exist and certainly not all, but a lot of the reasons have to do with sort of religious indoctrination, right? They bring kids out of this evil education system and they bring them into a cocoon where they can tell them that the earth is younger than the Sumerian civilization and that Adam and Eve walked with dinosaurs and crazy stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you've had a positive experience?
Yeah, for me, actually, the reason is the exact opposite. I live in Alabama. I mean, I live in Huntsville, so it's not super religious, but it's still Alabama. And, you know, I was getting bullied my entire 7 grades, and, like, it was ruthless. I was relatively open about my atheism. Like, if someone asked, I would tell them I didn't proclaim it from the rooftops. And it just, I couldn't stand it. I was depressed. Life was just, I felt horrible. And, you know, I got pulled out and I've been doing much better. And, you know, the reason I left was because of the religious indoctrination from the teachers, from the students, from even the principals and vice principals.
Wait, in the public schools?
Yeah. It's Alabama. We tried to see them twice.
Sorry.
Thrown out both times.
Sorry. Yeah, you're in the South. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
I wasn't tracking.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's, I mean, I like it here, but it's still the South, and there's religious indoctrination on the walls. Some teachers had just Bibles on their desks. That I had one science teacher, and I think it was 6th grade, say that evolution was just a theory when she was trying to teach the lesson. Like, all my science teachers have tried to slip in just little, like, oh, but it isn't, it's only a theory. It's not true. It's not, you know, just little tiny doubts to confirm their beliefs.
That's terrifying. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
They would be teaching science. Well, I mean, in the South, we have it here in Oklahoma. It's there's a like before football teams play at high school football, the teams all get together, take a knee, and they have a pastor come out and they lead the team in prayer.
I've actually seen that before.
And I'm thinking, you know, oh, come on. And marching bands are doing it. And you see a lot of these types we see prayer before city council meetings. It's everywhere. Do I have the solution outside of just continuing to try to grow the secular nature of the United States and to try to encourage loud and proud secular activism by people like yourself and me? I mean, that's the only solution I've got. I think it's going to have to be about numbers and about changing the culture before we can change the institutions inside the culture. So, you know, ultimately, I think we will start at the grassroots level. We'll try to change minds and promote better ideas, and, you know, one chip at a time, try to get these folks centered back toward protecting the church-state line and not using their taxpayer-funded positions to promote superstition and magical thinking.
Yeah, and one other thing I'd like to touch on is I've never stood for the Pledge of Allegiance for both nationalist reasons and the under God. And every year on the first or second day of school, because a few times I've just not been there on the first day. Every time, without fail, I've been sent to the principal's office. And one time, I was forced to leave school and was threatened to get in-school suspension. I mean, I'm not sure if it's the under God. Part of my reasoning or part of my thinking about why it's such a taboo thing to do is because it's also part of the religious kind of everyone's the same, everyone's one group, we all have to be the exact same. And, you know, that's part of the religious mindset. And it's certainly interesting to see just the sheer amount of both nationalist and religious authoritarianism that is in school systems, at least in the South. I don't know about Oklahoma.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. You know, I think it's something for us to chew on here on the show. So thanks for offering it.
No, yeah, no problem.
All right, take it easy.
Thanks.
I used to think differently about the pledge, and you know, now I'm someone who loves his country. But when I was, you know, younger, and certainly when I was religious, there was an idea that, you know, this is the best damn country in the whole world. And I didn't know anything about any of the other countries. It's just this thing they drill into you. And, we would stand and put our hand over heart and say, I pledge allegiance. We're too young to even know what an allegiance is. And so we weren't really participating in patriotism, as he said. It was more of a nationalistic thing. We're better than you. It's tribalism. And as I sort of edged out of religion and I re-examined all of my positions one by one. I had to go through the death penalty, and I had to go through, government assistance and welfare, and I had to go through, healthcare, and I had to go through crime and guns and all these other things, one after the other. I realized that, it's stupid to celebrate the fact that you popped out of your mom's vagina or whatever, out of your control, made you better than somebody else. It's just stupid. And as I edged out, I found myself thinking less locally and more globally. And I think you can love your country and want to fix the problems and build it up. And you can also be, a citizen of the world. And this blind nationalism is a little bit terrifying, especially in the era of Trump, where I feel like he's telling people, if you don't stand up, you're a traitor. Essentially is what he's saying. If you don't do this, if you don't participate in this act of symbolism, you are betraying the country. And it sounds very North Korea to me. It just gives me the creeps. Anybody else here that I can jump in and speak to who has not? I've got Joshua. See if I can pull up your feed here. There he is. Josh, you got something for the show, bro? I'm not hearing you. I see that you are muted, I think, on your end. I don't see anything, my friend. I see you, but I cannot hear you. I'm going to give you a second to think with that real quick. Nathaniel, what's going on?
Am I unmuted? Am I muted?
You are unmuted and live.
Awesome. What's good, man? It's good to see you.
You too.
I appreciate you so much, man. I've been listening to you for a few years. Your experience with your family is a little more extreme than mine, but I relate so much to the things that you say. So it's good community to see you all the time, man.
Thank you. Thanks for the kind words. I appreciate it.
Oh, definitely. Over Thanksgiving, it was super duper awkward at my sister's house.
What happened?
She's got I've got 2 nephews, 2 nieces. She has them in Christian school. She's super duper Christian creationism, young earth creationism, and I don't to keep the peace with her. We don't ever broach the topic of Christianity at all. It's just a no-go. We can love each other and enjoy each other's companies, but they always, my family's always doing prayers before dinners, like most families, and my sister knows that I'm an atheist, and she doesn't do anything to kind of got my back during prayer time. They want me to sit down and participate with them, and all of the kids have to say a prayer, and then all of the kids are looking at Uncle Nate to say a prayer too, and I'm just like looking across the table at my sister, like seriously.
Oh, wait. How many prayers do you guys say? It's not just a prayer over the meal, but everybody
in their family, all of the they've taught their kids that they say a little bit of grace too, to get them to participate in the meal and in the blessing.
Get them early, right? Get them young.
Oh, definitely. I grew up in Christianity, but so all the kids are looking at me to say a prayer, and I'm looking at my sister like really, you're gonna make me make this awkward.
So what's the expression on her face? Is she kind of like, gotcha?
Let's see where this goes. Like a bit of bemusement and ultimately disrespect, not necessarily intentionally, but dude,
it sounds pretty intentional. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not trying to throw your sister under the bus, but it
Uh,
sounds like she's throwing you under the bus.
It was definitely a bus throwing experience. So I just, to keep the peace, I can't remember exactly what I did, but I think I said something like thank you, like I was good. And somehow it moved on, like part of me wanted to make a declaration to Satan, but I knew that was gonna be a problem.
Oh, man.
I kept the peace. Later on that evening, the kids are all playing with Uncle Nate because I don't see him very often for reasons like this. So we're playing with some toy dinosaurs, and my oldest nephew, he's like 12, I think, and he's in a private Christian school, and we got like a toy dinosaur and a little figurine, and they're acting like the toy dinosaur is eating a little figurine of the action figure or whatever it is. And I'm like, I make a comment like, that wouldn't ever actually happen because, man and dinosaurs didn't exist together. My nephew like stops like cold turkey in the middle of what he's doing and looks at me and says, "Mr. Nate, you don't believe in the Bible?" Like just this horrid look on his face. And I'm looking at him, then I look at my sister. I'm like, what are you teaching these kids? Like, did Adam and Eve ride dinosaurs in their school? Like, what's going on here? This is insane.
It hurts my heart to think about it. I'll tell you, if you're called on again, you can always think of like, I mean, not an asshole prayer, not a snarky thing, but if you wanted to take the high road, just, I want to say thanks to those who prepared the meal and worked so hard to bring us together. I'm thankful for my family and for the opportunity we have to spend this day together. And, I'll carry it with me forever. I mean, you can say something that is revolving around thanks and provide the example of goodness for them. If you're called on again, that's an option. So.
I think I'm going to talk to her before I'm put in a situation like that again, just to, address it, pre-address it, and be proactive instead of reactive. Because
if you take her aside and say, "Look, I'm not comfortable with this, and I really wish you would not do it. It's hard on mom and dad. It's hard on everybody else. And she still does it, then to me it's on, right? It's on.
Fair enough. Man, I grew up in Christianity. Like I was a strong believer, and was since I was like 5 years old. And it wasn't until I got about 30 or so that I was digging deep enough into what I actually believed to kind of pull the strings of the sweater until it all unraveled. I remember growing up in fear. Because all of my friends who went, that I met at public school, if they didn't get saved, they were going to hell. And I used to have anxiety, and I used to agonize and pray at night endlessly. Just, Lord Jesus, please help my friends not go to hell. And I would, my conversations with hanging out with my friends as like an 8-year-old would be revolved around making sure they were saved first before we could have fun. I still, to this day, catch myself accidentally praying over meals. It's just that indoctrination that gets stuck in your head all of your life that, sometimes hard to shake.
Hey, you know what? You're aware that it happened, and you're moving forward. So, sometimes we don't sprint forward. Sometimes we got to just take it a step at a time. But I'm glad you crawled out, Nate. And honestly, I'd like the idea of your sister and her kids seeing you being just awesome, Uncle Nate doing his thing as an atheist. Who knows, when those kids get older, maybe they'll come and tap you on the shoulder and say, "Psst, hey, we've got some questions and doubts. Would you help us out?" Might happen. So.
Be interesting, man. Appreciate it.
All right, brother. You take care of yourself, okay?
Thank you, sir.
Let's see. I've had Derek on hold for a while. Derek. Trying to get... There he is. Derek, you're on the air. What's going on? Is your mic on? Hello? I've got you up and not muted. Let me try again. Show and broadcast. There he is. Earth to Derek. Come in, Derek. I'll wait. Sky rockets in flight. By the way, I want to say thanks to Hendashot, a super chatter who says, keep up the great work. Hendashot is, I always think of William Hendershot from Unforgiven whenever he was in there with Gene Hackman and he asked him his name. What's your name?
Can you hear me now, Seth?
I sure can. And also Gabriel. Gabriel said that the show has helped him a lot. Appreciate you, Gabriel. Thanks for the support and the kind words. All right. Derek. Derek is among the living. I'm semi-conscious and ready for a new day. What's happening with you, man?
It's a pleasure to speak with you, man. I've been a big fan of your work for a long time.
Thank you.
I consider it a privilege to be able to speak with you. Nothing too cynical or dark to talk about. Yeah, I've grown up in the Bible Belt. I'm just north of Orlando. My parents have been devout. The Bible says it, so therefore it must be true. And I've battled them and butt heads with them since I was 12 years old. But that's neither here nor there, man. I just wanted to take a moment to say thanks for standing as a beacon of reason and critical thinking, and you've produced a lot of good work, and I feel like you've helped a lot of people through some tough times. So
you're very kind, man. Thanks for that.
Yeah, keep up the good fight, man, and I appreciate the work you've done, and keep helping the people you have.
All right.
But on a lighter note, just to leave you with a funny little joke, how does Moses make his tea?
Oh shit! I'm terrible with jokes. How does Moses make his tea?
He brews it.
Jeez. Get out of here, Derek.
Oh man, well that's about it for me, Seth. It was a pleasure speaking with you. I'll let these other people have their but yeah, thanks for everything, man. Keep up the good fight, and yeah, you have a good night.
Thank you. Appreciate you so much. Thanks for the kind words.
You too, man. Feel free to tell them too.
Let's see. I've got Ultra. Hi, you're on the air. What's going on? I see a wave. Would you like to be on the air?
Me?
I can hear you. What's up?
So this is new for me. I've been an atheist since sophomore year, and I'm in the dead center of the Bible Belt. And I know it's not wrong for me to be an atheist, but my mother and I just feel like I'm wrong.
Well, let's explore that. Hang on. So logically, you came to a position where you don't think there's a God. How did you get to atheism?
Actually, I've had questions for like a while, but I just dismissed them because my mom's a youth leader and my stepdad's all about church, but I had questions and I went to my brother because there was stuff I didn't know. But as I was talking to him more, and it was about a good year, and he's like, well, why don't you check out your videos? You as in yours. And I watched a lot of your videos and I came to figure out I was an atheist. And it's not that I don't feel bad for being an atheist, but my mom likes guilt tripping me. So sometimes it feels like I'm wrong in the sense that I want to make my mom proud, but knowing that she's disappointed in me sucks. And it's like I get picked on and bullied in school all the time. And
are you talking to people at school about it too?
No, I mean, I told a few people that I thought were friends, but that didn't end up so well. I had severe depression for a while, and it got to the point where I almost committed suicide twice. So I kind of just stopped talking about it. But I'm afraid because I'm going to be a freshman in college in August, and I'm kind of afraid my mom won't help me pay for it.
It's funny. I have heard of people, I've had interactions with people who decided, especially if mom and dad were paying for college, and I'm not telling you to do this, but they decided not to push it until they got to a place where they could put their own feet on the ground. They decided not to have the really hard, in-your-face discussion with mom and or dad until they had gotten through school and they had, they were living on their own and they had begun to establish themselves in a career or a family of their own. And because, it's the consequences aren't just they'll be mad. Sounds like for you, the consequences might be this could affect my future, right?
Yeah.
So I would think that, if that, and we're just talking, I'm just saying, if that it's going to be ugly, you might be able to use this time to enhance your own knowledge, make the journey about you. And this is just an option, take it or leave it. But, it'd be a time to discover more about your mom's religion. How much does she know about her faith? What does her faith claim as opposed to another faith? And what do they claim? And another faith, and what do they claim? And to learn more about life without religion. You could use, while you're at college, you could use the time to be able to just sort of stack the deck more in your favor, to learn stuff, to sponge information, to get that degree in the hopes, with the purpose and with the goal that, when you're done and they can't hold you financially hostage, then, when you're ready, you can sit down and say, Mom, I'm an atheist. I love you. I will always love you. I hope you will always love me, but you need to know this about me. So, if you have to play a longer game, I don't begrudge anyone that. Is that an option for you?
Yeah. I actually move in late June. But like,
do you feel alone? I mean, as far as just personally, one-on-one, it sounds to me like it's not just a mom thing. You feel abandoned?
I do a little bit. I'm in my school's marching band, and I used to be. I'm graduating, but they used to do prayer all the time after, before practices or before we had a meal for band camp or something. And I felt alone. I don't know. I'm confused. I know it's not wrong, but
I want you to do me a favor, and you don't have to contact them, but I want you to remember this website, write it down if you need to, recoveringfromreligion.org. Okay. And they have hotlines set up. They have points of contact set up for people just like you and me, right? Navigating out of that thick soup of superstition. Everybody around us is pointing their finger at us and saying you're broken and you're doing it wrong and you're a fool and you're this and you're that. And then we have to carry that baggage, which makes the journey even harder. And there are people there who they can relate, they can talk us through that. I really just mostly want to make sure that you don't go through it alone. And when you mentioned that, you'd attempted to take your own life, I mean, that's the one thing that's just ringing in the back of my skull right now. I mean, look, you have value. Your life has value. You are an amazing thing. You've beaten the odds to breathe the air, to exist on this earth. When you think about, how many other lives Dawkins always says it better than I do. He's got this amazing quote about life and death. And he talks about, just the chances of us existing are pretty amazing. And you beat the odds. You are here. You are learning. You are a unique person who has a lot to offer. And so be encouraged that it may feel alone one-on-one, but there are so many people out here, especially you can find them online and elsewhere. There might be people living at your school who are watching you from the shadows, and they don't know that they haven't come forward yet, but they might be watching and drawing encouragement from you. Hey, she's a gutsy girl. She's You know, she's not afraid to kick the tires and ask the hard questions. She wants to be truthful and live an honest life. So I want you to be encouraged. I got a whole chat room over here from people, and they're cheerleading you right now. Okay, you're not alone, and you're not crazy. Okay, are you hearing this? You hearing the words that are coming out of my mouth? Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, you're not alone, and you're not crazy. And if you really need someone to talk to, and there's not a Google Hangout like this, recoveringfromreligion.org. I know it feels kind of weird, like, oh, I'm going to call a support helpline. I understand there's a stigma about it. Don't let that stop you. I know so many people from there. They're beautiful people. Many of those people know exactly what you and I have gone through and what you're going through right now. And they would love to be able to walk you through it and just build you up and remind you that you're not by yourself in this deal. Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you.
All right. I'm reaching through the internet. Big hug from me. Okay.
And I really love your videos. They helped a lot.
Well, thank you. You're very, very kind. And you right now you're connected with a whole community of people at the Thinking Atheist. So we got your back as well. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right. You take care. Yeah. It hurts my heart. Beautiful person. And here she's, looking at all these potential consequences. And I think, what a crime it is to have a child so that you can say, be a mini me, like, be like me, be an echo of me. How uninteresting is that? Wouldn't it be amazing if we continue to cultivate a culture that said, be who you are, whoever that is. Go and learn something new. And, if you learn something that I don't know, come and tell me about it. Teach me something. Let's go explore together and challenge each other. I mean, what an amazing opportunity that would be for families to just sharpen each other day by day. And there are environments that do that. And I think sometimes if we don't get it at home, we can find that environment elsewhere. Hell, I started the thinkingatheist.com because I was where she was. I felt like I was alone and nobody gets me and everybody around me is a believer. And so I just went online to try to create some kind of a hub where I felt like I'm not out of my mind. And I've got some support. And it's a tough journey to take alone. It's not impossible, but we don't have to be alone in this deal. I think we can and we should stick by each other and support each other. So anyway, you encourage me, okay? The fact that you are having these thoughts and going through the journey, you encourage me. Roger, by the way, thanks for Roger made a donation to the community. Thank you so much. Helps me do what I do, Roger. Greatly appreciated. $25? Wow, that's huge. Much appreciated. Let's do a few more. Let's see if I can get, is it Deicide? On Google Hangout. Let's see if I can get you. There you go. Are you with me? I don't have audio. You may need to unmute at the top of the screen. Do you have an unmute button? Microphone icon?
How about now?
Is that a personal relationship with reality shirt?
Oh, yeah, it is.
I love it.
I didn't even think I had it on.
That's one of the first shirt designs I ever came up with, and it's still, I think, my favorite. I think I even like that one better than the actual Thinking Atheist. You pray for me, I'll think for you shirt. That's one of my favorites. So it makes me happy to see it, brother. What's going on in your world?
I've come up with an analogy that I have used a couple of times on a few lay Christians, and all I've gotten is stunned faces that no reason to respond. They've just got no clue. But I've never used it against a theologian. And with your experience with debating with people who are trained in apologetics, I thought I'd try it out on you and see what you thought about it.
No pressure. All right, go ahead.
No pressure. Okay. It would also be good for people like Noah who are questioning as well. Imagine that the country you live in has become a Christian theocracy. The religious government has just decreed that anyone that has been determined to have sex out of wedlock, whether it be past, present, or future, is punishable by the Bible, which is death. Right? The punishment would be 3 days of torture followed by a slow, painful execution. Upon hearing this, and it just so happens that you have been condemned of that crime and you are now facing 3 days of torture and a slow, painful execution. Upon hearing this, your child or a loved one comes up to you and says, I can't face seeing you be tortured and executed. Let me take your place. Would you accept it? And what would you think of someone that would accept it?
Yeah, I mean, do I think it'd work? No. Would it give them pause? You know, it's possible. No, I've used a scenario that's marginally like yours when I use the Abraham example. When I say, if God appeared to you the way that he appeared to Abraham in the Old Testament and asked you to kill one of your children, and I pick one, would you obey? And they'll just usually freeze, and then they have to tap dance around, well, it was symbolic, or it wasn't actual execution because, God knew he was going to pull the plug. I don't know. Your challenge might give some people pause. Have you used it on anybody?
I have used it, and especially when they come up with if you can't have objective morals if you don't have an objective moral giver, right? If it's immoral to accept your child to take your place on the crucifix or the chopping block or whatever, why is it moral for them to accept Jesus's sacrifice?
Yeah, it's an interesting apology. I mean, do I think most of the people you're dealing with are going to listen to and respond and change their position? No. Might it stop them in their tracks for a few? Yeah, it just might. Pretty good stuff.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, if you use it, in fact, if you use it out there, let me know how it works. I just finished a conversation with street epistemologist Anthony Magnabosco, and he's engaging believers all the time. If you have success, I think I'd want to know that, and I think Anthony might too. So, your email is seth@thethinkingatheist.com. Let me know. Okay, bro?
Yeah, no worries. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Let's see. I want to do a few more. I know some folks have been waiting patiently. Joshua, do I still have you? Joshua, there you are. You want to contribute something for the show? What's up? You may have to click the unmute button somewhere, top of the screen, microphone icon. I just hadn't had any much luck. Joshua.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but not see you. But I'll take here. What's going on?
I'll take that too. How about that? I wanted to contribute something to Ollie and the caller before last. I believe the ones who were in high school.
Yeah.
I was indoctrinated pretty hard growing up. I went to private school. Like up until 10th grade, until like it was literally driving me crazy. Like that Bible verse where it was never cease praying.
Yeah.
Or something along those lines. Like I took that literally, and I looked like, I mean, like every 2 seconds I was blinking, like, and it was me doing many prayers because it just it drove me crazy. So I completely understand that. My advice to them would just be, if you plan on going to college and you're taking, biology or science classes, at a Christian school, learn go out of your way to get a biology textbook or just look it up online, because I mean, I went to college after all of this, and I mean, I got straight A's and everything else, but I struggled so hard in biology and just life sciences like that because I mean, they don't teach you stuff like that. Like it was just, oh, this is a cell. We're not going to tell you what's in it. It's just, isn't it beautiful? Just look at it. Just look at it. Isn't it awesome how
Just
God made it?
look at the pretty trees kind of thing, right?
Yes, exactly. But no, that I just wanted to contribute that to them. But I had a separate question, like for myself. I wanted to know. Okay, I listened to like a lot of you and Matt Dillahunty and Aaron Raw and Vice Rhino and Sargon of Akkad, which I know you're not too fond of because of his comment, but I'm not gonna get into that. And like I love you guys to death, but like when it comes to political ideals and stuff, everybody's so liberal. I don't get it. And then and then I listened to Ben Shapiro, the political, political guy. I'm at a loss of words right now. But anyway, and he's brilliant when it comes to politics, but when it comes to religion, it's like a switch in his brain just gets shut off, and it's just all facts are out the door, and it's just, oh well, what I believe. And I just want to get your point of view on like why are most atheists like extremely like left wing or Democrat or liberal?
Well, I'll answer as best I can, Josh. All right.
Okay.
Well, I used to be a Fox News conservative. I mean, Rush Limbaugh, Michael Savage, local conservative talk radio hosts. I read conservative books. I used to read Ann Coulter. Oh, don't judge me. Don't judge me. I was, I had these ideas about what, the death penalty made sense for me. That was justice in my mind. I was, convinced that big government was always a bad thing, and I'll qualify that by saying that our government is hugely wasteful and bloated and out of control. But nobody voted Democrat. Like if you voted Democrat, you might as well have announced you were an atheist, right? It was just scandalous. Oh my God, they're registered Democrat. We couldn't stand growing up. Jimmy Carter couldn't stand any Democratic candidate. And when I left religion, I went back and I started to look at how much of what I used to think was informed by religious thinking. I used to oppose gay marriage and LGBTQ rights because I felt it was morally wrong and the Bible spoke against it and it was against God's plan. Well, I had to reevaluate. And now, I'll be happy to stand next to you at a pride parade. And I'm out there voicing, even in my family, it drives them crazy. My best friend is gay. And I'm like, he's awesome. He's one of the best people I know. And his life is beautiful, even though it doesn't fit in your cookie cutter. I had to change my mind on that. I used to see the death penalty as sort of an eye for an eye thing, justice. Yeah. And then I, came out of it and I began to look at the use of the death penalty and the disproportionate use of it against blacks and the faultiness of the evidence. And honestly, the fact that we don't have to kill people to protect the public. And I just went point by point through, we used to have that binary sort of look at welfare, get a job, people just want to live on food stamps. Are there parasites in the world? Yes. But, I've also come to see there are a tremendous amount of people who just need a helping hand, who need assistance. And whether it's healthcare, whether it's any of these other things, I really try to take it case by case. This is why I'm still firearms. I'm a licensed firearms owner. That's not exactly a liberal platform. But I'm against assault weapons. And I'm for the enforcement of gun laws. And if protecting people means that I would need to or be required to surrender my firearm that I shoot recreationally, great. Let's do that. I'd like to think that most of us don't fit in a cookie cutter. We're more than the R or the D next to our name. But I think the reason that you see a lot of people who are atheist activists who are more left, it's because they are just as much as atheist or more, they're humanist. And that speaks to, not judging people because they're gay and not killing criminals and wanting to
I'm not.
think more
Yeah.
globally, those types of things. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was like, I thought I was muted this whole time. Yeah, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. I am completely, for gay rights and owning your own firearm and stuff like that. It's just like honestly, and don't get me wrong, man. I love you to death. You're awesome. Like I listen to your show every day. But
dude, you don't have to apologize. Just tell me what you think.
okay, the Sargon. Like I watched a video where y'all were talking about the Sargon of Akkad. Comment that he made, where y'all were upset because that was that could have been somebody's first event, that they had went to an atheist convention, and that Sargon was just totally out of line and everything. And I actually, I went and watched it just because I was curious. And I mean, if anything, I think was his name Matthew or Thomas, yeah, Thomas. I mean, they were the ones, yelling over him and not. I mean, because I haven't watched much of Sargon, but he's more conservative, I guess, in his. I mean, he identifies as liberal, but he's still conservative in his ideas and stuff, in some things, and it just.
Look,
I don't know.
Let me stop you for just a second, Josh.
I feel okay. I just feel like liberals are more
conservative. Like Melissa Chen was part of the MythCon event, and I just love Melissa to death, and I think she is whip smart and has a tremendous amount to offer this movement. She is a social and fiscal. She's a fiscal conservative, but she is socially liberal.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, the Sargon argument isn't about conservative versus progressive. It's not left versus right. It's not a liberal or conservative issue. It's is he speaking in inflammatory and destructive ways, and is he acting in ways that we feel would bring any truly, genuinely moral person shame and embarrassment? And I just don't see that. So for me, it's not about his politics. I think if he has every opportunity to choose the words that he's going to make his platform. He's going to choose how to represent himself. If this is his thing, then it's nothing that I want anything to do with. And if his work resonates with you, then go ahead.
I don't know. I mean, it was just it's. And I don't mean to be rude when I say this, but it's the typical kind of I'm putting this in quotes, snowflakey response. It was like taking a non-threat and turning it into a threat, like that I wouldn't even rape you. Turning it into
I'm not going to let the whole show derail, but you and I see the tweet differently. It's a rape-related taunt that is designed to escalate and push buttons, and it is not only hugely unnecessary and unhelpful, but it's just a douchebag thing to say and do. This is not the kind of activist I want to see promoted and extolled and promoted out there. And while everyone has a right to watch him and support him if they like, I have the right to say that I find him distasteful, and he doesn't represent the kind of human being I want to be. I want to help people. I want to build people up. I want to de-escalate. I want to heal wounds. I would never use a rape-related taunt to try to prove a point, because I would have the depth of feeling and the perspective as a mature human being and a humanist to know that it would hurt so many, and it would be there were so many other better ways to approach the issues in regard to speech and language and rights and offense and many of the things that he tackles. And so, I hope you don't see my opposition as I've got tissue thin skin and I'm just a snowflake, because there are those who are going to say that. I oppose him because I just think it's a shitty thing to be. It's a shitty thing to do, and it's a shitty way to do it. And as a humanist, that's not what I want to be about. I want nothing to do with that. Okay? Fair enough?
No, and so No, I wouldn't say you have tissue skin or whatnot or anything. Like I said, man, I love you to death, and I guess we can just agree to disagree on some things. I
Look at
mean,
us.
like you
Look
said,
at
it's
you
not
and me.
atheist. Man,
You and I stand on the
it's
opposing sides of a position, and yet we're still friendly and we're still talking, and the world continues to spin. You know what I'm saying? So I'll give us that. We did all right.
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. All right, man. You do
Okay.
you, Seth. Keep it up. Love you, man.
All right. All right. You too. Take care. I'm going to do me. Be taken out of context. It'll be quote mined by somebody. You know, I don't think, you know, it's not even like, you know, it's not even like I'm trying to find a scenario where that is the best way to handle it, a good way to handle it. And I just think, where's your empathy and compassion for people? Where's the desire to build up and to heal? Where's the perspective to know that so many people are shattered, their lives are shattered by rape and sexual violence, and to know that words have power. I don't believe words are like, you know, I asked somebody on the show a long time ago, do you think, you know, that a word spoken is the same as a bullet fired? And they were like, yes. And I disagree with that. But I do know the power of language. Hell, I'm a professional communicator. You know, it's funny. You can say to someone one sentence. You can say it to a child or a spouse or a friend, hell, a stranger, and you can destroy them. I mean, you can just, you know, you can create a scar that they'll carry with them for the rest of their lives. And if you and I are in the arena of ideas, you know, let's battle in a way where, yeah, let's defeat the bad ideas, but let's do so as humanists and humanitarians and champions of good and goodness and charity and compassion and love. And, you know, we don't have to be weak to be the champions of goodness and compassion and charity and love. We can be completely strong and out there swinging for the fences. But we don't have to be that other. We don't have to be that. Nate, thank you so much for the donation. Greatly appreciated. Everyone's been so patient. I've got time for just a few more. My dog's coughing back here. He's got this tracheal collapsing thing going on. Come here, pal. Come here. Come here. And I have found that if I prop him up where he's sitting upright and you rub his chest for just a second, you just rubbed, I don't know why, this just worked. He was, he does this sort of honking cough. And it's because in these smaller dogs, the trachea collapses to the point where they have difficulty breathing. And if it gets too bad, you know, you have to put him down. And this is always in the back of our minds. We're like, oh my God, we gotta take care of him. And so if he's sitting upright and we were rubbing on his chest, he just stops. You doing better, buddy? And it seems like he's good. Henry's a fan of humanitarian causes and humanism and love and compassion and building people up and happy endings. And, you know, he's a story of rescue. A dog that was treated horribly and someone showed compassion, and now he's my son with whom I am well pleased. Okay, I got to put you down. I got a couple more calls. He's healed. It's a miracle of Jesus. It's a miracle. Somebody tell Gloria Copeland. She's the one who said Jesus was better than the flu vaccine. What the hell? She's out of her mind. Who has not been on the show who wants to be on? Let's see. I've got Colorado Biker. Jesus, is there an easy way to get everybody on the show? Can I just click something here? There he is. Colorado Biker, what's going on?
How's it going?
What do I call you besides Colorado Biker?
Call me Colorado.
All right, cool. What's up?
Well, it's first of all, I've been subscribed to you on YouTube for about 7-8 years now, something like that. Long time.
Veteran. You're a veteran.
Oh yeah. So, well, first I'd like to say that young lady that was on earlier who was having trouble with, you know, coming out as an atheist and everything. Hang in there, kid. You'll be fine. You know, you can find some like-minded people, and just stick with it, and you know, you'll be all right. Don't worry. You know, I know it's tough, especially given certain cultures, certain parts of the country. It's really difficult. So hang in there. You'll be all right. Okay.
Good stuff.
And secondly, I had a question for you. I work as a tour guide. So, and I have a particular group coming up either this summer or next summer. And it is a group of young earth creationist evangelicals from several different countries around the world. So, and I have to spend 2 weeks with them. Yeah. You know, I do motorcycle tours. I actually come through your area. You're in Oklahoma City or Tulsa?
I'm in the Tulsa area. Yeah.
Tulsa. Okay. All right. I specialize in Route 66.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Historic Route 66.
Yep. Right down, what is that, 12th Street?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I'll be coming through there with them. So I'll phone ahead and warn you they're coming, because this is a particularly, they're all young earth creationists, very evangelical. I have one of them on my tour a few years ago, and it was a nightmare. They got ostracized. He and his wife got ostracized by the rest of the group because every opportunity he had, he was just constantly evangelizing to everyone and everything. I about lost my freaking mind. Just to be honest, as an atheist, I totally I about lost it a couple times. I mean, I like to think of myself as a very tolerant person. However, the level of crazy that I had to deal with was just mind-numbing at times. It was just, it was horrible.
And you're trying to be a pro, right? You're trying to be the tour guide and to take the high road. And yeah, I get it.
Right, and I have to be professional about it. But dealing with a whole pack of them, I mean, I'm going to have like 20 something of these people for 2 weeks.
You know, it's so rare to see them in the wild like that.
Oh no, I think they're caged by their own theology, to be honest with me. Yeah. I think they've caged their own brain in. So, you know, you've dealt with this probably quite a bit more than I have. I've asked Aaron Ra. I've also put the question out to the Great Debate community here on Google+. But I would like to just think, how would you deal with this? Not dealing with the people themselves, but internally, as you know, individually, how would you deal with constant bombardment 24 hours a day for 2 weeks with this type of crazy?
Well, I mean, I'd be curious to see what Aaron's, he's pretty in your face, so I can almost hear him coming up with a zinger, a one-liner, right? Do you remember what he said?
Oh, it was about 6 months ago or 5 months ago.
Knowing him,
he says just laugh and walk away.
Yeah, I mean, I picture him, you know, making some joke about some other mythological beings, and you know, he takes sort of the verbal battle axe to that type of stuff whenever he encounters it out there. You know, for me, you're in a tough spot because it's your job, and a happy client means that the company's represented well. And so to a degree, I mean, I understand you having to swallow your own tongue a little bit, but at the same time, I don't think that, you know, you should be able to say, you know, hey, look, that's a very personal thing for me. And I appreciate your concern, but I really would rather not talk about it. I'd really rather be able to focus on my job and to make sure you have the best tour possible. I think you have every right to do that. And then if they don't listen to that, then I think all bets are off. Yeah,
well, they really didn't listen to that last time. I basically said, you know, that's not a subject that I discuss on tour. I'm just here to do a job. But
they must be, are they like straight up Pentecostal types?
Oh yeah. Well, this guy that was on tour with me previously, he was from South Africa, and he had moved to the UK and founded a very, very Pentecostal evangelical church over there. And now he's transferred to a church in Houston. Last I heard of him. So
he's down in Joel Osteen's territory down there.
Yeah, actually, I think he's actually an assistant pastor there.
At Lakewood?
I believe, I'm not sure, I can't say for certain, but I believe so.
You know, those guys I think they run 20,000 a weekend at church attendance at that place. If it's the same church, that's insane.
Yeah, he's an assistant pastor. He said he was an assistant pastor. I was in touch with him this last summer. But it's, I mean, any hints that you could give me about, you know, I'm going to bite my tongue off halfway through the tour.
Well, dude, I mean,
man, that's, woof.
I don't have a solution. The problem is that, you know, if you tell them to fuck off, you know, then you pay for it on Yelp or whatever.
Well, I mean, he read me the riot act for saying, you know, shit. You know, just kind of like, shit. You know, comes over. You can't use that kind of language.
Yeah. Someone in the chat room said, you know, that Aaron Ra's a biker. You should just have Aaron be like an extra guy on the tour.
I would love to have Aaron come with me because then at least I could say, go talk to him. You know, I'd give him a free tour just to come along, just so that there would be at least a little bit of yin with the yang, you know.
Or you can say fuck off, and I say this in love. You could do that and see if it goes over. Dude, I don't know. It's if it's your job. Part of me still thinks though that, you know, if you say this is very personal, I'd rather not. I mean, they're crossing a personal professional line, and you know, I don't think you have to put up with that. How tolerant is your employer in regard to the boundaries that you set on the job?
Well, I'm the chief operations officer for the company.
Well, that helps.
Yeah, it helps a lot. I have, you know, I got the owner of the company, but he's very sympathetic to my position. And I have I've literally told off clients right to their face before, but not for theology, you know, just for being a complete wanker, you know, just for being rude and insufferable, completely, you know, unreasonable expectation type of stuff. You know, but this delves into a whole different, you know, realm here, because it's not just going to be one of them. There's going to be 20 out of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if nothing else, you can put Monster on Sunday on the, you know, on the cycle speakers as you guys are cruising along. Maybe that's honestly,
I've already got a bunch of Motorhead and a bunch of other, you know, Dead Kennedy songs and all that stuff. I've actually created the evil Satanist playlist to play on the music on my bike while I'm riding, you know.
Before I let you go, Colorado, what kind of bike you ride?
We're Harley Davidson authorized tour company, so it's a Harley Davidson Road Glide, 2016.
Cruising down Route 66. That actually sounds like a ball.
Yep. And you know, I'm going to be coming through Tulsa about 5 or 6 times this summer. So maybe at some time I'll let you know when I'm coming through.
Dude.
I'd be happy to have you come and join us for dinner. I'll buy you dinner. Bring my wife.
Bike, you know, it's great. It's got a little basket on the front and streamers and a banana
that little
sleeve.
bell that goes ring ring when you do.
I'm just saying. I mean, I'm a badass on that sucker, so we can all get together. Appreciate you, my friend. Good luck with the tour. Okay.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
All right, take it easy. I mean, I don't know. What advice would you give him? Man, that's a tough one. Let's do 2 more. I know who this one is. Brooke, grab your video here.
Hello, can you see me? Can you hear me?
I can indeed. Now, a little backstory. Brooke and I met, how many years ago has it been? 6?
It was my 16th birthday.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm almost 22. Yeah.
I was doing a speaking tour in St. Louis, and she and I share a birthday, and we bonded. And so from time to time, you know, I see her out there just, you know, giving people shit and doing what she does. And you're about to graduate college, or did you finish already?
I graduate in May. Yeah.
Congratulations on that. What's going on in your world, Brooke? What's happening?
Yeah. So actually, I'm in a constitutional law class right now, and it's all about liberties and rights. And right now, the past about the First Amendment and freedom of religion, and specifically religion in public schools. And my professor is very pro religion in public schools. And with every case we talk about, he is always arguing for religion in public schools, basically no matter what it is. And you know me, I'm not shy. And so I do raise my hand and disagree with him. But, and I've even gone up to him after class and I'm like, hey, I disagree with even more stuff you said in class. But it's just so much that I don't know where the line is between like when I should stop raising my hand and disagreeing with him, because I don't want to come across as combative and I want to be professional and stuff, but it's just all the time, every day.
Are you worried about your grade at this measure?
Not really, but just my relationship with him, because, you know, I do want like a letter of recommendation and stuff, but he just says some things that I cannot let slide. He was saying, like, if you have an opinion on religion at all, so he's like, religion, which is ridiculous to me. But yeah,
I'm sorry, I lost you, Brooke. What was that last sentence? Go ahead.
Oh, that he was saying, if you have an opinion on religion at all, that you're religious. So if you're an atheist, you're also religious because you have an opinion on religious matters. So yeah, and he is a former lawyer and a constitutional law professor. So yeah.
You know, I hear people who tell me, because I'm an atheist and we deal with religious issues almost every day, that we are also religious. And I'm like, you know, it's like telling a cancer surgeon or the family of a cancer patient that they have cancer because they deal with it and talk about it or want to cure it. And it just makes me crazy. And I used to do those sort of, you know, well, if atheism's a religion, then off is a TV channel. I used to do those kind of things, you know. But, you know, I think, honestly, most people in religion are trained to talk about everything in religious terms. So if you go to a convention, it's atheist church. If you hear an atheist speaker, it's an atheist preacher. Sounds like the instructor is the same way. But you've made your opinion known, right? Oh, did I lose you? Brooke, I think I lost you. Sorry about that. Well, I mean, I wouldn't torpedo the grade if you've already told him what you think and you've already challenged him on what he's saying. If he's proselytizing, yeah, she's gone. She's gone to be with the Lord. If he's proselytizing, though, in a class that is not, it's a public university, that's something that someone at the higher end level, and this is tough if you like him as a person, that's somebody needs to know about that, because, you know, people are paying thousands upon thousands of dollars for an education, not for a church service. And so if he's using his taxpayer funded position as a professor and educator to be a bully pulpit for a specific pet religion and deity, this is something that the higher ups need to know about. I know St. Louis is kind of tough, right? You're in Missouri. It's still a religious area, but I would hope you'd hear a sympathetic ear, or you'd find a sympathetic ear at a little bit higher up in the food chain. You could even potentially, after the class is over and you get your good grade, have that conversation with him. You know, you need to know this. You know, I'm here to learn facts and to be a part of discussion and enhance knowledge, not to attend church. But I wouldn't torpedo your grade. So if you think there's a chance of that, I think, you know, you've made your peace, do the work, get the grade, get the hell out. Graduate in May, high five, big party. Next chapter of your life begins, and good for you. Congratulations. Let me do one more. Somebody here on the Google Hangouts list that I haven't gotten to. By the way, thanks to Muhammad Music for the support. My girlfriend, Tanise, appreciates you so much. She's been having a difficult few months. Tanise, thank you so much for listening and watching. And I'm sorry it's been rough, but, you know, big hug from me and all of us to you, and hang in there and keep kicking. And thank you. Swishiest Metal, thanks to Jesse Greenwald. Noah Claiborne, I think I mentioned Noah. There was one more I want to jump into real fast. Got Audra. I'm going to try this one. Thanks for your patience here. Audra, you with me? There's an unmute button at the top of the screen. Audra, you there? Ground control to Major Tom. And I guess not. I've got Wesley. Wesley, you're on the air. Do you have audio and video or just audio? What's up? When I was in the church, we would always say, well, the devil doesn't like it when you step on his toes. It's a spiritual battle out there. And that's what the devil's responsible for all these technical difficulties that we are having. Have I spoken to, I've got a Nathaniel and a Nicholas. Have I spoken to either of you guys? I've got, let's see. That looks like somebody's doing laundry at Hutch's house, so I'll spare you that. Y'all do your laundry, do your thing. Everybody clothed, everybody decent. Audrey, you there? Wesley, you there? Let's try Nicholas, and this will be our final broadcast here, our final attempt. Nicholas, do I have you? Earth to Nicholas.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Excellent.
Man, it's a good feeling when we navigate past these technical hiccups. What's up?
Yes, I just wanted to thank you for putting a great group of people together. It's been fantastic. All the atheists in the South and the Bible Belt are an inspiration for atheists in the North, like myself. I really just feel like everything that we've been talking about correlates with child abuse. The emotional testimonies of people coming forth, people feeling the pain, the hurt, the shame, the guilt. And I know Lawrence Krauss came out, there was a video circulating of him calling what religious people promote and emotionally shaming children and such, and promoting ignorance over science is a form of child abuse. And I shared this with several people who are Christians and atheists, and I got pushback from both, because both said you can't tell people necessarily how to raise their children. You got to be careful what you call child abuse. But I did cite a study for them, so I had some backing to what I was saying. And there was research done by the Boston University that showed young children with a religious background are less able to distinguish between fantasy and reality compared to secular children. And they were still not having it. They still pushed back on the fact, saying that, but religious children tend to be happy. They tend to feel better if they have something to believe in. And for me personally, I think the problem with that is that there are religious children who can be happy, but the problem is religion's taking all the credit for it. And I think as a society, I would like to see us move, and I hope you agree with this, I would like to see us move to a place where children don't have to be dependent on religion to feel happy. Children can be happy without religion. Children can still indulge in fantasy growing up without religion. They do it with Santa Claus, with the Easter Bunny, etc. And so my question to you is, why do you think there are some atheists who may push against the idea that a religious upbringing is child abuse? And then one other thing I want to mention that I almost forgot. Thankfully, I did not grow up in a religious family. My family was religious. I did catechism and all that, but it wasn't pushed on me strongly. It was very liberal. I'm grateful I could read whatever books I want. And I've been an atheist for a long, long time, and my brother's just now asking me about it. And he doesn't want to give up his religious beliefs, but I try to find Christians who may give accurate information on certain scientific topics, like Francis Collins, head of the Human Genome Project. Undeniably, he says there's undeniable evidence of evolution. So I point him in that direction because I know he may not want to give up his religious beliefs, but I want to make sure he gets evidence. He gets factual evidence and he gets what he needs. So he feels better about that. He'll be more open to evolution in that way versus me saying, well, Christians are ignorant on that idea, because there are some Christians who do accept evolution. But back to my question. Sorry, I kind of trailed off. Back to my question. Why do you think some atheists push back on the idea that a religious upbringing is child abuse?
Well, let me address the question of your friend, or is it your brother or friend?
My brother.
Okay. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a religious scientist who's presenting the info. I would encourage you, watch it yourself, and then you can decide if it's right. But it's a video on my channel that was we recorded with Dr. Donald Prothero. He's a paleontologist and geologist and a leader in this field, and he's written a book called Evolution: What the Fossils Say and Why It Matters. And I actually took 5 cameras down to Dallas. We set up a studio, and I had him give that presentation so I could, because I was like, this is so good, I really want to get it on camera. And he, at the very beginning, says there's a myth that, you only atheists believe in or accept the fact of evolution, when in truth, the Catholic Church does and many religious people do. And he actually says that. And then he gives just a firestorm of examples where it's just proof examples of evolution in nature, including in human beings. And it's a fascinating and relatively non-threatening journey. It's about 90 minutes long. It's called Evolution: What the Fossils Say, Why It Matters. You can just YouTube search it. It'll pop right up. Give that a look and see if you can maybe use that as a tool in the arsenal. Okay.
Okay, that's great.
As far as child abuse, I've asked a lot of mental health professionals and parenting, quote unquote, experts about the child abuse question. And everybody's a little dodgy when I've spoken to them, and I understand why. And it's the same reason I am, because, the internet is the place where nuance goes to die, right? We're speaking about a hugely complex issue if we say the word abuse, and there aren't equivalences. A sexually molested child is not the same as a child who was told to believe that Adam and Eve are the ancestors of humankind. These are different scenarios. But I do think, especially when it comes to health theology, when it comes to using the fear of hell and damnation and pain and torment and all those things to the point where, children accept it as fact. And then as adults, they often, even after their logical brain knows it's a bunch of crap, they still lose sleep at night. They have nightmares. They're traumatized. Many people experience a form of PTSD because of hell teaching. I do think that's abuse. I think it's at the very least, you're damaging children, limiting what they might become in the formative years of their lives by teaching them nonsense and to accept nonsense and withholding from them critical thinking skills, vital skills that would help them in the rest of their life. So while I think we need to be a little bit careful about the use of the word abuse, in some instances, I do think it's absolutely right and accurate. And, it damages kids. It damages adults. It damages people. And I think that's good enough reason for me to fight against it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Would you say preventing a child from questioning or from gaining the knowledge? I know some children might ask their parent if God's real, or might ask them more critically, why doesn't God answer prayers? And parents might turn to shame. How could you ask? How could you ask that? And so I'm curious to know if you would say that would qualify as abuse.
I mean, if you're ingraining in a child, is it abuse per se? It's, it may be a form of abuse. I think you are mishandling your stewardship of a child, right? We don't own children. Parents are stewards of their child, as philosopher Daniel Dennett likes to say. Yeah. And you might be limiting what they could become. I think, it's at the very least you are, you're guilty of being a negative force in their lives. Do I want to use the word abuse in every case? I'm not sure. Also, it's difficult because I don't think that we want to live in a culture where we get to jump into everybody's house and tell a mother and father that they can't parent their child. But, the downside to that is if you have somebody who believes in magic, whether it's the book of Genesis or healing crystals or chakras or Allah or whatever, then you've got a parent who's able to funnel all this bullshit into the minds and hearts of their young charges. And there is no easy answer. In many cases, I don't know what the answer would be, except to try to change the culture around those homes as best we can, to try to live loud, proud, secular lives so that, those options are at least broadcast as available. And we're available to those who might be going through the journey, and the kids who might have questions. We can at least be an example for them that life exists outside their small cocoon. You said one more thing I want to address quickly, is the idea that happiness is the end goal. Is that really all is that the ultimate for us, right? Happy. What do you want to be in life? Would I rather live a happy fantasy or a harder reality? Would I rather plug back into the matrix and, eat the steak dinner, or would I rather know the truth and perhaps have a harder road? And in my own life, I decided that happy is it's not the deal breaker for me. Happy is not the end of the journey. Happiness is something I think that can be achieved through a truthful and honestly lived life. And so, when I see someone saying, well, so-and-so is happy, who was it who did the quote that, a drunk person's happier than a sober one? It doesn't mean that we support alcoholism or that alcoholism is healthy. Happy is great, but we should be happy for the right reasons. And honestly, in fact, I don't know that I've ever met anybody who left religion's happiness and embraced the real world and rejected superstition who wasn't happier, despite their difficulties, happier and more content in their heart after they rejected this whole notion of gods and religions. They were happier despite the troubles they had,
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. And then there's one more thing I want to mention. By the way, quickly. I will be yes, quickly. I will be seeing you in Milwaukee at the Secularist charity event.
Yeah, the Brew City benefit. It's going to be fantastic.
I do want to mention just quickly about as a secular community, we can have very controversial conversations, but we need to do it in the right way, like you said. And I don't think Sargon did it correctly at all. And we obviously don't want to be in an echo chamber. We want different perspectives. But if there's one thing the secularist community should be 100% on, we do not condone nor support rape or comments geared in that direction. So I really appreciate everything you've done.
All right. Much appreciated. Thank you so much, Nate.
Yep.
All right. Take care of yourself.
You too.
Well, the voice lasted almost 2 hours. I'll probably sound like, it's funny when I wear it out at the end of the day, the next morning it comes back really deep. It's a great time to record like commercials and stuff. It just comes back so much better. I don't know. We had a lot of familial stuff on the show. A lot of people who, they were going through it with mom and dad and cultures and, sort of navigating what will other people say and what are the consequences to me. I guess it's, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I don't think it's a dead horse. I think so many people go through it. It's worth talking about again and again. So stick with me on the radio show next week. I've got a broadcast with a guy named Hector Garcia. He's written a book called Alpha God that talks about the psychology of the creation of gods throughout history. And have you noticed they all, or most of the major ones, have these specific male characteristics and how that happens? And he's a mental health professional. He's done TED Talks, and he's a really smart guy. And we're going to talk about that. I've got comedian Ian Harris. He's going to be on the broadcast in March. We're going to do a show I'm calling A Happy Show About Death. We're going to get into, this sometimes taboo subject in the United States. People don't like to talk much about death. I mean, a lot of people, they're afraid of it. They know it's coming. They just want to blink until it goes away. And I want to destigmatize death. And, let's get into death as it relates to the lives we lead, these precious moments on earth, and the process of death and what happens. I'm going to bring a mortician on to the show. We're going to talk about what happens down there in the basement. You know, when they wheel me down when I'm 85 and I finally croak, what's going to happen to me? I mean, I want to know, and I'm bringing a mortician on. So we're going to break that stigma, and we're going to talk about death. But I promise you, we're going to talk about life as much or more than anything else. Dr. Bart Ehrman finally is going to be on the show. He's got a new book called The Triumph of Christianity, How a Once Forbidden Religion, I'm paraphrasing the subtitle, became so popular. And so Ehrman's going to join me in March. And there was one other broadcast I had on the agenda, and it escapes me because I'm aging and the mind is going. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you want to submit anything for any of the podcasts that I just mentioned, a story, a perspective, a question, or you want to be a caller on the show, the email is podcast@thethinkingatheist.com. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll see you later.